Hi, this is Daniel Alpine, animation historian, and welcome to a new episode of Animation Memory Lane. On December 16th of 2015, I had the opportunity to attend a very special event at the School of Visual Arts Theater in Chelsea, New York. The event was that three of the star animators at the now closed Blue Sky Studios, Scott Carroll, Jeff Gabor, and Nick Bruno, were to lecture about the making of their recent release, the Peanuts movie. Before we continue further, please remember to give a thumbs up and to subscribe to the channel for more content. At the event, I got the chance to meet each one and each autograph this pamphlet, which was a real honor and privilege. And the story that each one told about the making of the movie was an excellent one itself. In 2006, which was 6 years after the deaths of Peanuts creator Charles Schulz, his son Craig decided to start development on an all new feature film adaptation of his father's characters, and then he brought it to his son Brian. The two would collaborate on the film's story and would see to it that the film was a proper film narrative that also paid tribute to the late Charles Schultz. After developing the story, it was then that the two decided to pitch it to different studios to see which one would pick it up. But the reason it took so long was because it was under one crucial condition, which was that it had to be under the Schultz estate's creative control. The Schultz family was adamant about that because they didn't wish for this to be taken by a studio and the studio would run with it and turn it into something that would be considered, well, a dud and disrespectful to the source material. A prime example is Space Jam, what it did to the Looney Tunes characters. In 2012, it was officially announced that 20th Century Fox had struck their deal with the Schultz estate, and the film would be produced by their main feature animation arm, Blue Sky Studios, which, as we all know, was the creators of Ice Age and Rio and other films. Scott Carroll said that the reason Blue Sky was chosen was because Craig and Brian Schultz really enjoyed the family atmosphere of the studio and thought that the characters would be in good hands. And they chose Horton Hears a Who director Steve Martino to direct this because he had really earned his stripes directing that film because he proved that he could be close to the spirit of the source material of Dr. Seuss, and he would be well suited for this project. At the time that the deal was struck, the studio was at work on their 2013 film Epic, and the Schultz family was impressed with the work done on the film, and there was a few that thought perhaps what was done for that could be applied to the Peanuts characters. That includes putting fur on Snoopy and hair on Charlie Brown. But there was another group that included Scott Carroll and others that thought that this should honor what the original television specials did. After a time of studying the original television specials and experimenting, the Blue Sky Studio animators came up with a style that was to capture the charm and feel of a traditional animated film, but in computer animation. That included a few, which was to animate the film on twos instead of ones, and to render it not too realistically, but more stylized as a flat 2D art. And it really succeeded in that, and the animation was considered very charming and really something special. One of the animators at the event joked that what this new style meant was taking every single tricks that everyone learned about computer animation and essentially throwing it out the window to do something new that was to honor something from the past. As far as the casting for the film is concerned, it was decided to cast real children actors as the Peanuts characters instead of the usual celebrity voices. except for one, which was Christian Chenoweth as the voice of Fifi. And this was a case of real irony because Christian Chenoweth was Sally in the 1999 Broadway revival of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, which she won a Tony Award for. While the movie kept the tradition of having Snoopy and Woodstock be pantomime characters, their vocal effects were archival recordings of animator Bill Melendez, since he did the voice of the characters in the original specials. Here's a fun fact: the actress that was the voice of Frida and the little redhead girl was the little sister in the Disney Channel sitcom Dog Was a Blog. I can personally tell you that when I saw the teaser for the film in 2014, I had a feeling that this was to be a special movie, not the least of which that this was to be Blue Sky Studios' 10th feature film. And when it was released, I was right, and critics seemed to think so as well because it was very well received and is still considered the studio's best movie. The film also proved to be a box office success, and, well, this was the last success that the studio had because the follow up film, which was the fifth Ice Age film, Ice Age Collision Course, to put it bluntly, crashed and burned when it was released. And sure, the two other films after were still well received, still, the studio couldn't recapture the success of the Peanuts movie. And sadly, the studio closed in 2021 because of COVID. I still remember that at the time of the Peanuts movie release, there was talk among my friends and even the professor, Marty Abrahams, that there could be a sequel to the film, which I remember I had to explain that the initial deal with the Schultz estate was for one movie, and when the studio closed, the chances of another seemed slim. But it was recently announced that Apple TV would produce a sequel to the film, and it will be released in theaters, and Steve Martino will direct this. So perhaps the 2015 movie wasn't the end, and we'll see what happens next. Even so, the Peanuts movie will still be fondly remembered as the last true success that Blue Sky Studios had, and for many, their one true excellent work of art. When I saw the movie in theaters, I was very blown away by it because it did everything that I expected and more. And even the Schultz family felt that Charles Schultz would be proud of it, which was all that the crew that worked on it could ever ask for. To learn more about the making of the Peanuts movie, please check out my article on my blog, Daniel Alpine's Animation Wonderland. The link is in the description. Well, this is animation historian Daniel Alpine, and I'll see you next time.